what are we even doing here, Kyle? I don't want to do an intro. This is stupid. Sports are stupid. Why do we even do this to ourselves, Kyle?
Yeah, you figured me out there. I was all ready and threw me for a loop there.
No.
I needed that fumble for fantasy purposes, so I'm trying.
I don't
to make
care.
The finals.
No. This is I usually let you do your fantasy corner. Not now. Even in hockey, the Lightning lost to the Panthers today. Kyle, this is a bad day.
We've all been there, man. We've all had our rough sports days. That was a dumb loss. I guess we could just jump right into it. That was a dumb loss, and yeah, I mean, this is it's a double whammy for Tampa here. I mean, obviously, you're going to take the floor here in a second, but just setting the stage, obviously. So the loss technically takes Tampa Bay out of the playoff picture right now. They are 8-7. They are the 8th seed in the NFC. They lose the 4 seed to Atlanta, who has the head-to-head tiebreaker because they beat them twice. And there's 2 games left. And I think the one thing you could say is like Tampa still has some room to breathe because, Atlanta's got a tough game next week, but now they don't control their own destiny. So take the floor here with this game. Obviously some frustration. Tough game for Tampa.
We could talk about the situation. Not only did this suck, but like the games in the early window really went against Tampa because the Falcons won, which was expected, but also the Commanders winning hurt things because had the Commanders lost, the Buccaneers still would have controlled their own destiny since the Commanders play the Falcons. Now there's not even that. Now there's, the Buccaneers are guaranteed if they win next week to at least be alive the final game of the season, but they need help and they wouldn't have had they just not, really stayed out of their own way in this game, Kyle, right? I don't want to discount Dallas. They did make some plays, like for sure. But you think about just at the end of the deep pass, which is a great throw from Baker Mayfield to Jalen McMillan that gets what we thought was a touchdown, ends up being an interception. Then Cooper Rush throws it directly to a Tampa Bay player who drops it. And then later on, they are down 2 points, but they get the big Vita Vea play. They get the ball back only to follow that up with a fumble of Rachaad White, who a lot of people were critiquing Todd Bowles for not having Bucky Irving in there. I'm not that mad at it because Bucky Irving just isn't a pass blocking back, and the Cowboys were blitzing. So I get it, but like you can't fumble it there. That's just what it comes down to. And now, they beat themselves, and this is why that hole that they dug themselves in early on this year was such an issue because there was such a small margin for error. They couldn't have a game like this. Like if the Buccaneers had 10 more games in the season, we'd say, okay, whatever, it's a dumb loss, but they don't. And now they need to win out. And even that might not be enough.
Yeah, it may not be enough. We'll see how the last 2 weeks go. Like you said, the Commanders and Falcons play next week. That is a big game for both teams. Commanders can wrap up a playoff spot officially next week with a win. So it's not like they'll be resting anybody at that point. But yeah, it's just, you're looking at it at that point is like you've lost the control of your own fate. And that's the frustrating thing. And like you said, I think the most frustrating thing is like Dallas's offense looked for every reason to lose this game. Like they were just ready to give this game away. They couldn't move the ball in the second half. The running game was non-existent. Vita Vea had absolutely dominated up front. They did really well. And the Buccaneers defense did much better in the second half, which part of it was, CeeDee Lamb not playing a lot because of that shoulder injury. They really struggled with outside receivers in that first half, man. That was rough. But yeah. They made some adjustments. They got better. CeeDee Lamb obviously not being out there was a huge part of that too. And all of a sudden it looked like Tampa Bay was going to go and win this thing. And they just made every mistake possible at the end of the game. Like you said, they had the interception in the end zone, which probably should have been a completion to Jalen McMillan. They had the fumble at the end of the game. They had a dropped interception right after their own interception in the end zone. And yeah, it's a bit of a letdown because I thought Baker Mayfield had a really excellent second half and really put this team in a position to succeed. And they just needed 2 or 3 more plays.
Yeah, Kyle, Stephanie did come into my office when the fumble happened and asked if everything was okay. Because I screamed loudly enough that she wanted to make sure everything was good. That was the, I'm not a big yeller during football games, but that was one. Couldn't help myself. And not to mention the Sterling Shepard drop on 4th down early on in the game too, which, was a big play. There were so many mistakes. Like, again, Dallas played well. I want to give Dallas credit. I like to give the team that beats my team credit when they win. Like CeeDee Lamb's unbelievable. Like this defense is, I think, better when it's healthy now, which is kind of expected. Like DeRon Bland, we're talking about the fumble. It was still a good defensive play to make it happen. But I mean, yeah, there's too many issues. And at a certain point, you have to look at the coaching staff here, right? And you have to look at this Todd Bowles thing, where how many times does it come down to the Buccaneers losing in dumb ways? This is a team that we view them as kind of, having success in the Todd Bowles era still. Kyle, they're in the regular season, they're a game above 500 in the 3 years he's been there. Now, they've won the division the first 2 years and might win it again this year, but you have to, I mean, there has to be criticism of this coaching staff here.
I think it's justified.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they have a really good team too. And yeah, you can point to all the injuries, but everybody has injuries. We've talked about that verbatim this season. Everyone's dealing with stuff, and this team just wasn't. It just seems like every minor inconvenience this season has derailed this team a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, they're still doing good enough to get on track and potentially make the playoffs. I still, if I'm going to bet right now, what we're talking about in 2 weeks, I'm still betting on Tampa Bay as the 4 seed in the playoffs. But a lot still can happen, and like you said, it just seems like every minor inconvenience has been cataclysmic for Tampa, where other teams have been able to persevere. And that's the biggest issue that we're looking at with this team this year.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you survive this, like being the 4 seed instead of the 5, or being the 4 seed instead of 3 seed, that's still a bad thing. Like now you're going to play the Vikings or the Lions week 1 in the playoffs if you get in. Yeah, it's just it's a really disappointing loss. It's kind of the best way to describe it. Like I don't know, it's Mike Evans couldn't even get on pace for 1,000 yards in this one.
Yeah, literally got nothing now.
Yeah,
everything was frustrating on that side. I agree. So definitely a tough day for Tampa. Interesting win for Dallas because, like you said, they entered this game with no chance at the playoffs because of that Washington win earlier that we talked about, and all of a sudden the Cowboys have put together some really good performances, or I would say fairly decent performances. And Cooper Rush, outside of literally throwing the ball to the other team late in the fourth quarter in this game, I thought I had a really good night. So it's interesting to look at this Dallas team too, from this perspective of this end of the season thing where they've won 4 out of 5. And it's like, what do you do now next season? Because your season's over. Obviously you're eliminated from the playoffs, but I think you could talk yourself into the scenario of we just weren't healthy to start the year. We didn't get it together. And then it was too little too late sort of thing. Or, we've been talking basically all season about the changes coming to Dallas and that they're going to do a bunch of different things. Are those changes going to happen? Are we sure at this point? Because, they're playing some inspired football right now.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about these two teams like, oh, what a disaster by Tampa Bay. They have one more win than the Cowboys do. Like the Cowboys are currently sitting at 7-8, and if they didn't blow that Cincinnati game, I think they'd still probably be out of it. I'm not sure how tiebreakers work, but like you're looking at them as maybe having a chance if they win a couple other games here. So yeah, I mean, I Mike McCarthy's probably saved his job, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can easily chalk it up to like at this point, the injuries took us away, and they beat the Commanders earlier in the season. Like they could beat them again. Like it's not out of the question. So yeah, I mean, I think
I need them now. I might need them on week 18, depending on how things go.
Yeah, I think that there is a I think he probably has, honestly. I think that, and honestly, I think he's done a pretty good job these last few weeks. I think they figured some things out, and it's like, yeah, when we have our better players on defense, things go well.
Yeah. Eric in the chat says, "Are you okay, Jackson?" I've been better, Eric. Been better.
I would imagine this is not your best moment.
No. At least, I'm not going to say should I say the Buccaneers are not a Super Bowl team now, just to try to get that magic going again?
Yeah, they're out of it. Just write them off now. That's the solution.
I think so. I wrote them off during that game, and then they almost came back. It was there was a moment when I thought, is this really happening? And then the fumble. I'm upset. Football's stupid.
All right. Yeah. Why don't we watch these sports?
I don't know. It's right before the holidays too. You couldn't have waited a week to have this devastating loss, Bucks.
Yeah. Imagine losing on Christmas this week if you're like a Steelers fan. That's going to be miserable.
Yeah, that's tough. At least it's like there's no like team like fighting for their playoff lives, because that would suck.
Yeah, that'd be a real bummer.
Yeah, like if this game happened to me on Christmas, like Christmas, it's ruined. It would be ruined.
Yeah, you wouldn't talk to anybody the entire time, basically.
Yes, definitely. Kyle, I could do this for the whole show. We should move on. Still plenty to talk about. Let's go to. Where do you want to go here? My notes are all over the place. Is
I mean,
there
we
a?
have to go. We have to go to the game, the bonkers game in the 1 o'clock slate. I mean, this is the biggest result of the day, I think, overall, because, yeah, I mean, this Balls team pulling off the upset. Obviously, the big part of this game was Jalen Hurts going down in the first quarter, but still, Philadelphia managed to put a 21-7 lead with Kenny Pickett coming in, throws the early touchdown to AJ Brown. Saquon Barkley takes over the rest of the game, basically. He has over 100 yards in the first quarter, but then Washington just starts chipping away at this lead, hanging around, and then all of a sudden 22 points in the fourth quarter, including a just absolutely wild ending to get this win, get to 10 wins. And I mean, as we illustrated it with the NFC South picture, like, I mean, this basically knocked a lot of teams out. A lot of teams are now looking at it like we basically have to win our division to get in. And that's Seattle, that's Tampa, that's Washington, and that's Los Angeles at this point that are basically now hoping for miracles in the division.
I think it did. Like I think the only teams that still could catch the Commanders are Atlanta and Tampa Bay. But I think for Atlanta, if they caught them, they'd win the division anyway. So I think Tampa Bay is the only team that like is even looking at Washington for the 7th spot. Yeah, Washington, they play the Falcons and the Cowboys, as we mentioned, final 2 games of the season. Win one of those, they are in. And this, I mean, again, the game itself, as you mentioned, Hurts went down. The Commanders turned the ball over 5 times in this game. They had 3 fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Daniels threw 2 interceptions, one late that we thought was going to be the dagger. And then there's a Devonta Smith drop, which, again, it's frustrating for me to think about now, but I'll get past that, which then allowed the Commanders to have a chance where, Daniels was, I mean, I thought Daniels was great all game. I know the numbers aren't like, the 5 touchdowns is good. The rest of the numbers aren't like crazy, but like the amount of high difficulty plays he was making consistently, it's just incredible. Also, real quick before I let you go, overlap with a super chat. This is overlap, and I've had enough of the Chiefs. Yeah, I think a lot of people have overlap.
Thank you, overlap. That's our mod.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy from the start. I mean, Brian Robinson had one of the most insane first 17 minutes of the game because he gets stopped on 4th and 1 on that first drive where they're at the 49-yard line. Then the Eagles go down and score. Then he fumbles on the next drive. Eagles go down and score. Then, it was a punt interception thrown by Kenny Pickett. That wasn't a very good throw, I don't think. And then the touchdown, the first touchdown of the game to Jamison Crowder. And the Eagles go back and score again on a long touchdown for Saquon again. That's a 68-yarder. And then immediately to start the second quarter, it's Brian Robinson again putting the ball on the ground. And it was just like that set the tone for this game. But then, Jaden Daniels kind of put on the Superman cape. And like you said, I thought he was really good too. I mean, one of those, like, it was a late interception in the first half. Obviously, like it put the Philadelphia in a position to get a field goal, but like he just kind of sailed the throw, I thought. But overall, like, he put on the Superman cape in this game. It was awesome. I mean, he was borderline perfect in this game.
He had multiple 4th down scrambles for first downs, and like not like at the end of the game, like just in the middle of the game, like when they, which I gotta give credit to Dan Quinn for doing that, right? I mean, how often do we see these defensive-minded head coaches say, "Well, we gotta trust our defense"? Like Dan Quinn's correctly assessed this team and said, "This is an offensive team. Let's steer into that."
Yeah. I mean, he had 258 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 2 interception. He had 81 yards rushing, and the team had 113 rushing yards. So, I mean, he was basically accounting for everything out there. And yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a terrific game. And like you said, they are going for it. They are aggressive. And I do want to give credit to these receivers too, like guys like De'Ami Brown, Zacchaeus, with 2 touchdowns today. Like, there is so much talk of Jamison Crowder had 2 touchdowns today.
Gotta give shout out to him.
Yeah, the two big catches for him. But no, I mean, it's like there's so much talk of this team being Terry McLaurin or bust, it feels like, on offense. And these other guys have had good years. They've really stepped up.
I did Google to make sure, like, that Jamison Crowder? Yeah, that Jamison Crowder.
Yeah. It was it was pretty funny. And then yeah, it was a weird game. Like, it just felt like as soon as Kenny Pickett came in, I was just like, okay, so I'm just kind of waiting for Philly to blow this. And then all of a sudden it looked like a blowout. And I was like, okay, so I guess it's not happening. And then just Washington came roaring back. And it's like, okay, I don't trust anybody else. Like, I think Kenneth Gainwell had like the first non AJ Brown, Devontae Smith target in the fourth quarter. Like, I don't think they threw to anybody else. Yeah, it was just, it didn't, obviously, Philadelphia is built around Jalen Hurts' success, but like Kenny Pickett is not going to help them going forward.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's almost an interesting thought exercise of like how many points do you give one team and then put the backup quarterback into leading team, like see how long they can like survive. It's almost like if you play like a video game that like doesn't have a high enough difficulty and you have to like throw it like a couple touchdowns to the other team first, like try to make it even.
Turn the sliders on, start the game, and then turn them back down. Something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
AJ Brown also had like one of the best 8 catch for 97 yards in touchdown game, because basically any time that he could have had, like, it felt like 250 yards in this game, because Marshawn Lattimore just grabbed him every time that he got beat. And there were several pass interference calls that he didn't get yards for. He should have had over 200 yards receiving in this game.
I've had those conversations many years, Kyle, of the Mike Evans didn't actually play that bad in this game. It was the penalties. So we have super chat, Donnie with a super chat. Cowboys fan here, bad defensive health and bad O-line play put us in a hole. Zach Martin also played like one of the worst guards. That'll helps too. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's definitely been a factor. You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
They'll draft Ashton Gene T in the first round.
Yes, that as well. Kyle, let's see. I thought I had other things to say in this game, but yeah, I don't know. I think we covered it. We're good. I'm sure there's other stuff, but I think we're fine.
No, I mean, like, we talked about it for the bottom half of the NFC, but like also the 1 seed aspect where like, Philadelphia was chomping at the bit to go get this 1 seed, and they were going to be the biggest benefactors of that Minnesota Detroit game next week. And then all of a sudden now they're on the outside. So this probably locks in 1 and 2 for, whether it's Detroit or Minnesota, and then Philadelphia at 2.
Yeah, I think I agree, and hopefully Jalen Hurts is okay. Like that's the other thing too. Like I think we all assumed that he'll be back, but like you never know. So hopefully that works out. Let's go to Minnesota, because this was the other game of the week. I mean, these two were incredible. I'll say I'm gonna start here. That throw of Sam Darnold after rolling his ankle to then stepping up in the pocket, getting crushed, throwing an absolute dime like 45 yards down the field to Justin Jefferson. You kind of forget, like, oh yeah, this guy was drafted 3rd overall, like because of his athleticism in a draft that also had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Athleticism, arm talent. I mean, there was all the reasons to like him there. I mean, it's kind of similar to like Geno Smith when you see him play, and it's similar to guys like Jared Goff who are on second teams. And it's like, yeah, these guys are drafted for their arm talent. Like, there's a reason these guys were highly regarded prospects. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a wild season at this point. Like he's playing. Like, he started the season really well, and then I think he cooled off a little bit in the middle of the year. But now he's back to playing. Like, I think these last 2 or 3 weeks have been some of his best ball of his season. Like, you look at this one, you had the Atlanta game, he threw 5 touchdowns. He had a couple other games in there that he was amazing. Like, he is all of a sudden peaking at the right time. And, it's hard not to get back in on Minnesota a little bit at this point, because, I mean, if he's going to make these throws consistently, then, I mean, everybody should watch out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because he has the first couple good games right away, and there's going to be a crowd of people that says, "Well, he's fixed, he's great." I think all of the rest of us were like, "Let's play this out. Like, this is probably going to go." Like, we've seen this before, where a quarterback gets off to a hot start and then cools off, and we kept waiting for it, and it kind of happened, but then it just never did. I mean, the Vikings are legit, and this defense continues to get takeaways. They've had turnovers in every game this season. Obviously Justin Jefferson's amazing, and I don't know. I mean, they play Green Bay and they play Detroit, but it's not crazy that they can win both those games and get the 1 seed. And that's all they have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but they have an opportunity for it for sure. I will say, I think the one thing I would now mention is the defense feels a little more leaky than it was early in the season. Um,
Mhm.
and I think part of it is like guys have been in and out of the secondary. Like I think Gilmore missed a few games until today, came back.
Mhm.
Harrison Smith was out this week. Like I do think they need those two guys specifically, just because those are really experienced and talented players.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, I just feel like that there's been opportunities to throw in. Geno Smith played really well in this game too, I thought at times, and he had a couple of mistakes, but overall, man, like Seattle was gunning with them too. I mean, it came down to the wire too.
Yeah, I mean, both the interceptions were ugly from Geno, but I agree. Other than that, he was really good. I mean, both of those plays with Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf in the end zone were like unbelievable throw and catches by those three guys. Um, it's a bummer for Seattle because I thought they played really well in this game, and
Hmm.
yet their season's probably over now. I mean, they essentially because the tiebreaker is almost just not going to happen with the Rams at this point. So they probably need the Rams to lose next week against the Cardinals for them to have a chance, which isn't a 0% chance, but they need help here and they need help badly.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because, like you said, they need that loss, and that's not going to be Cardinals aren't playing their best ball at the right time. Um, I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, yeah, because like you said, I mean, if the Rams win, is there even a is it even mathematically possible for because it's strength of victory or something, right? That's the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I spent way too long researching this, so it is possible. So essentially, what happens is it comes down to who you've beaten. What's the record of the teams that you've beaten in the season? And so there's a handful of differences in who each team has played. But essentially, Seattle would need the teams they've beaten to overtake like a 4-game lead. So they would need 4 more wins out of those like 5 teams that they beat, and the Rams didn't. Then what the Rams teams get, the Rams beat the Vikings and the Bills, and that's kind of why they have the lead now, and probably why they'll keep it.
I don't think I like this tiebreaker idea. I think we should go back to the drawing board and simplify this a little bit.
Yeah, it's very I legitimately spent like 45 minutes trying to figure out exactly how this works.
Yeah. I think we should try something else. Why not like point differential? That's
Yeah,
very easy. Like let's just do
I
that.
agree. I like head to head. I like divisional games. After that, point differential.
And that's the thing too. Like with the draft, is strength of schedule too.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. Like I I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm benefiting from the strength of schedule thing right now with the Patriots, but I think overall, like why are these our tiebreaker decisions? That seems ludicrous. I don't know. Like let's simplify these.
Yeah. So Seattle, really, it's again for tiebreakers. Their game against Chicago on Thursday really doesn't matter. So which is great because it's the Bears, Seahawks on Thursday night, and now it doesn't really have playoff implications. Really, they need because if the Cardinals beat the Rams, then the divisional tiebreaker would go to Seattle. So yeah, that's more. Although now I'm thinking about it, I guess yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, they'd still probably like to win it just so they're not
Yeah.
officially out. But yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is a definitely a tough break for the NFL there. I think they'll be okay.
And last week last year the Seahawks lost on the strength of victory tiebreaker.
Did they do it again? Oh wow.
Yeah, so they gotta win some more impressive games. Not enough
Yeah.
quality wins.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this is basically college football. I mean, the SEC fans are going to jump in the chat. We should evaluate quality
Yeah.
wins here.
Should Alabama win the NFC West?
Yeah, we should. If you're an SEC fan, I don't want to talk to you about it. That's my decision.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's stick in this division though. Let's go to Cardinals, who were eliminated today on a crazy game where the Cardinals looked dead. They had this weird play where it looked like did Kyler get out of bounds? Did he not? And because of that, like the clock, it was funny where they called him out with 2 seconds left, but the clock operator didn't hit the button to stop it, and so the clock read 0. And then Panthers fans started celebrating, thinking that they had won the game, but they had not. There was still a timeout. A 57-yard field goal sends this one to overtime. The Panthers go 3 and out. The Cardinals go for it on 4th down and 2 in their own territory, convert, but then have to punt right after, and then a couple nice rushing plays. Bryce Young continues to play well. in this, the Cardinals continue to be inconsistent, and now, unfortunately, a season that had a real bright spot ends in them not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I still think you could look at this as a successful season for them, just based on where they are. Defense needs a lot of work. You can't give up 240 yards rushing and expect. I mean, granted, they had over 200 yards themselves because James Conner has like 2 games a year that he just goes ballistic, and they're like, these are the James Conner games, and this was one of them, and he was really good.
He was the leading receiver too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was awesome. But yeah, I just like you can't give up 7 yards a carry to Carolina, and like that's just that's not a recipe for success. That's not a hot take. Yeah, so they really struggled in that. Bryce Young made the throws when he needed to, and made some really nice plays with his legs too. And yeah, I thought it was a good performance from Carolina and a further building block into next season.
Yeah, I thought Young was really good. He did have a missed throw on 3rd down that could have iced the game in regulation, but other than that, did a lot of really nice stuff. I thought had a couple nice runs, so a couple he had a couple high level throws too, which usually isn't his game, right? Usually he's kind of like doing the consistent stuff. He had a couple really nice ones too. I know the numbers aren't otherworldly, but he played well. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about the Cardinals. I feel like there was a point in the middle of this season where we're like, oh, are the Cardinals ahead of schedule here? Are they like better than we like thought they were going to be? And are they like, not only are they moving in the right direction, have they taken like a couple steps forward? It's kind of like, no, they're on schedule here. Like they're not like behind schedule. There's this is a season that you probably would have signed up for if you're a Cardinals fan. It looked like at a certain point it could have been more than that.
You got a lot of building blocks here. You're also missing your 2 starting offensive tackles in this game. So that are I think you're starting left tackle, at least to Paris Johnson. So that played a significant part. But at the same time, like, I guess there are going to be some questions in the offseason. Like, you obviously still got to rebuild this defense because, like you said, you got torn up in this game. Where are we at with Kyler, I think, going forward, I think is a question. Like, they're going to bring him back, I think, just because, there's not really an avenue to move on at this point. But, like, do you bet on this guy being the guy that can put it together for a full season? And I think it kind of has to be questioned. Like, I didn't think he was that bad today. I thought he was fine. But, like, I don't know. You're not paying for a fine quarterback, right? That's kind of the issue you're looking at. And, especially when you've invested in this receiving group, you've invested in these offensive linemen. Like I said, you were missing Paris Johnson in this game, but you've invested in this offense a lot to prop him up. And, like, I think it's fine. That's kind of my issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's under contract for after this season, he'll be under contract for 3 more years at around $50 million a year. So I think that he's at the very least, I don't think they're looking to move off of him or anything. It's weird with these, like, I always kind of like bang the table, like the Dak Prescott contract's a bad contract because he's not going to elevate your team enough to win you a Super Bowl, and you're not going to be able to build a roster that can win a Super Bowl with a good quarterback. With that, like the Kirk Cousins one, kind of the ultimate example. The Kyler thing is almost like, I would almost compare it to like a Matthew Stafford type thing, where it's like, okay, you have seen this kind of player win a Super Bowl. Now it's still a bit of an exception. It's still difficult, but at least there is some sort of avenue of when you have the more inconsistent guy who you would still probably put around the same spot in the rankings, but is just like, because Kyler might have a great day and then not a great day. I think the hope is maybe you don't get an amazing season out of him, but can you get a good season out of him and then he gets hot at the right time?
I mean, that's what you have to bank on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how we can expect that at this point. I don't know. This is going to be his first season playing all 17 games in a few years. This is now year 7 for him. And I just don't know if we've seen the same heights for him is my issue. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I was at a point now in a few, like last year at least, when it came to like the Dak Prescott conversation and like the Kirk Cousins conversation, is like, you're going to pay the quarterback because it's a lot easier to just pay the quarterback and figure everything else around him than be in the unknown of not having the quarterback. But I just feel like we've had a reckoning point with this, where we're seeing guys like Sam Darnold and Geno Smith have led better teams than Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray this year. And granted, it's, not all the quarterback. There's teams involved. But a lot of that is because they're a lot cheaper than those two guys too, and that makes it a
Right.
lot easier to build around those teams. And I don't know if I can see a Kyler Murray $50 million quarterback led team be that kind of team. Like I think this is still a team that's built around the 53-man roster. This is still a sport. While quarterback is the most important position, where all 53 guys have to play a part in winning. And if you're not the best guy in the world at $50 million, like you're kind of dead weight at that point.
Yeah, no, again, I'm completely on board. This is a take I've had for a while. You don't want to pay the guy unless they're top tier. I think I understand a little bit more of someone like Kyler because the hope is he could one day become top tier. But at this point, he's been in the league
But
enough.
it's year 8. Yeah.
No, I get it. I'll say this. If he's a free agent, I'm not paying him a $50 million deal. But he's not. He's under contract, so it's a different situation.
Yeah. It'll definitely be interesting going forward. I do think there has to be questions. I mean, there should be questions at this point about all these guys. I mean, as we're seeing this Sam Darnold thing play out, as we've seen this Geno Smith thing play out, I think we have to ask questions about every one of these players now that we're paying. Like, this has to be question number one is, can you be an elite guy? Can I bet on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that it wouldn't be the worst move to maybe just do one of those like, hey, Jets, do you want to for first round pick you can have Kyler Murray.
Jets love spending first round picks on quarterbacks. So
they would immediately and they would rush to do that.
Yeah, they would be so excited. Well, you'll take Aaron Rodgers back for a year too? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on, Kyle. Again, it's a weird week where I feel like every game there's things to talk about, but I don't know how many games were like great. Do we want to just go to like the Thursday night game and just go Broncos-Chargers?
I think this is the most impactful for the playoffs because it was another one that like the teams, the losers of this week was the 8 and 9 seeds in the conferences, right? Like the worst wins imaginable happened for both of those sides, with Washington winning as the 7 seed and then with Los Angeles winning this game. This was a weird one though, because it was like it looked like Denver was going to run away with it at one point, and they struggled to move the ball in the second half. They had that. It felt like that free kick literally was a swinging point in the game. Like that moment was huge for Los Angeles. They got back within a score, and then we had been criticizing this second half offense for Los Angeles, and they immediately go touchdown, and then a late touchdown to get the win, or some insurance too. Like, what a win for the Chargers, and that's a signature moment on this otherwise a very impressive season. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think every now and then it feels like Herbert reminds us that he's Herbert. Like I feel like he's like he's totally bought into the Jim Harbaugh structure, and like it's actually pretty impressive how quickly he's like just changed his game to be this guy. But like every now and then he just will become Herbert again and show the plays that he can make. Yeah, I mean, really impressive Chargers victory, who are now not officially in the playoffs, but all they need is to beat either the Patriots or the Raiders. Hey, we saw Patriots nearly beat the Bills and the Raiders won today, so maybe not a guarantee, but they probably are going to win one of those games and get in. But yeah, I mean, where are we at with Bo Nix? Because my perspective on Bo Nix is that he had a bad first month, and then has mostly been this guy for the rest of the season. There was a point when people were like, no, he's actually amazing, and I'm a hater for disagreeing. And now I feel like I'm almost on the opposite side where people are like, well, this guy sucks. I'm like, no, he's still pretty good. Like, there's still a lot of good stuff he does. He makes a few too many mistakes a game. Will miss a couple throws a game. But, like, I think puts the ball in the right spot pretty consistently. The question is just, can he win you a game? I think it still remains to be, or not win you a game, but can he, like, be a driving force the way we saw Herbert be kind of late in this game?
Yeah, someone posted that out of context. What is it? The yards beyond the line of scrimmage thing, I think from last week. Mm-hmm. And because I think last week it was that he had like 200 yards that on throws behind the line of scrimmage that started behind the line of scrimmage or something like that. It was a weird graphic along those lines. That basically saying he's a check down guy. And I think largely he is. I mean, he has been since college. That's been a lot of his game.
But can I also just cut in right there and say, like, that's Sean Payton's offense too, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was Breeze got that criticism. Yeah. Like, it's not like it's a new thing here.
Right.
I think the interesting thing is like I just feel like there's so much discounted of like just how poor this skill position group is.
Yeah.
Like, it would actually be nice to see Bo Nix like with some players because, we've talked about it. Like, Cortland Sutton is a good player. You don't really want Cortland Sutton being your best offensive player. Like, that's an issue. Like, my issue with the Denver is just how dependent they are on Bo Nix all season. And like, I think there's more because I have turned the corner of like, I think there's more upside than I originally thought because I did not like the draft pick. I was very critical of it. And like, look, he's making good decisions. That's the thing he's doing. Cause like the thing I was worried about in college, like, yes, he threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage a lot and it worked at Oregon because they had better players than 99% of the teams they played. My issue is that the times he didn't throw a ball behind the line of scrimmage, I was scared of who was going to throw to. And I think he's throwing the ball downfield really well. I think he's reading defenses really well. And when he is, extending plays and making plays downfield, I think they've been successful. So I do want to see this team add some talent around him and see where it goes from there. Because like, I still don't think he's going to be a superstar. I just think like when we talk about the, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, even guys going like Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, like those guys have like physical traits that I don't think Bo Nix will ever replicate. And Hurts more with the running than the throwing. So I don't think it'll match that, but I still think there's like an Alex Smith version of him. That's probably the best case scenario. And, Alex Smith was a really good quarterback that made the playoffs a lot of years.
Yeah. We have a super chat. Did you have a chance to see that interception on Purdy? If he didn't have Campbell in his face, does he make that throw in that soft spot Juan was running to? I'm trying to remember. Was that at the end of the game? I don't remember it. No, sorry. Kyle,
no, I didn't, but we'll have to go back and watch it for sure.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't one of the games I was super locked into in the second windows. One of the difficulties of doing a show right after the game. Sometimes you can't get everything done, but yeah, well, if I sort of remember what you're talking about, but I don't remember exactly. But yeah, the where were we with Broncos Chargers? I mean, I guess we could end by just saying the playoff scenarios right now. It's a very funny situation in the AFC because what needs to happen now is if the Broncos or Chargers, if they both just win a game, then that's it. We have our 7 teams. If one of them loses out, then you have 3 teams that could potentially get in: the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals in that order. So if the Colts went out, they would get in. If they lose a game and the Dolphins went out, they get in. And if they lose a game, then the Bengals, although the Bengals play the Broncos next week. So it's almost like that could keep things alive for the final game of the season, which would be pretty fun.
Yeah. If Kansas City wins on Wednesday against Pittsburgh, I feel like they got to take the dive. Like, I don't know. You probably don't want Cincinnati to even have like a more than 1% chance at making the playoffs. Like, I would avoid that. I would, as much as I think this Denver's defense is tough and that's a tough matchup still, like I would much rather face that than Joe Burrow.
I get it. I don't know. I feel like this is something like, so the Buccaneers last week, everyone was saying like, oh, that's not a team I would want to play in the playoffs. Like, I think I would rather play the teams that aren't that good. Like, I think I would rather play like the Bengals or the Buccaneers than some of these other teams.
Yeah, I would, but if it came down to like, do I want to face the Broncos defense round 1 or the Bengals offense? I still think I'd pick the Broncos defense and figure it out.
Yeah.
But
maybe.
The tough thing for the Bengals is they got a lot of teams to jump because of tiebreaker scenarios.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough for them either way, even if they do beat Denver and Denver loses the last game. But, it still feels like if Kansas City takes care of business on Wednesday, then, they have no incentive to like go for it on week 18. So that's probably Denver's path because they do have 2 tough games to end the season. So the door is open for those other teams, but we'll see.
Yeah, if you're a fan of one of those teams trying to get in, you need a Chiefs loss. That's what you have to be rooting for. That's almost as big. That almost feels like as big of a domino as some of these wins. I don't know. Also, to the super chatter, I rewatched the play. Yeah, I think that was just. I mean, the contact definitely affected the throw. If that's the question, I don't know how. I mean, looked like it probably would have been a completed pass if not for that. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Kyle, let's move on. Let's go to. Let's go to your team. How about this? A valiant effort by the New England Patriots. Thought they were going to pull it off. Unfortunately, they kind of patrioted at the end, but still a very an impressive showing here by your guys.
Yeah, really good start. Drake May had an impressive first touchdown pass. They started up 14-0. I was really just overall pretty surprised how well they covered in this game, and how well they defended the Bills offense that, had kind of been running on everybody and just dominating. But eventually, Buffalo kind of figured some things out. Got a big play from James Cook that kind of ignited the offense a little bit more. And then the backbreaker was the back in their own field position. They ran a swing pass route, but it was also like behind like lateral sort of situation. I don't know exactly why you would call a lateral style play way deep in your own territory like that. But Ramondre just gets obliterated as soon as it touches his hands. It's a fumble in the end zone that the Bills pick up for a touchdown. And that was basically the game at that point. There was just a hilarious final drive for the Patriots. If you want me to go over all that, that was probably the funniest thing. It was a 13-play drive that they got all the way down to the 8-yard line. That then was a offside penalty that made it first and goal at the 4. That was a incomplete pass by Drake May. Incomplete pass by Drake May on second down. This was with 2:26 left in the fourth quarter. They had the ball on the 4-yard line with 2:26 left. Incomplete. Elam gets a pass interference play in the end zone, so it's first and goal at the 1 with 2:18 left. Minus 3-yard run by Antonio Gibson that goes down to the 2-minute warning. So it's now second and goal back at the 4. Then it's incomplete pass. Then it's Elam with another defensive pass interference in the end zone that leads to first and goal at the 1. Then it leads to a touchdown that was then ruled an incomplete pass. 6-yard sack for Drake May, and then a touchdown to Hunter Henry. So basically over a minute to get 4 yards. Just a absolutely insane scenario there that kind of cost them the game.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Drake May had one of those games. I mean, again, I think we could just record a clip and then just play it for each game now of Drake May looked good. Looked mostly good. Had a throw or two in there that you don't like, but other than that, made a couple of really nice plays as well. And he's in a bad situation. What do you want him to do?
Yeah, it's a bad team. It really is. The interception was weird because I'm assuming somebody fell or ran the wrong route because it was just a weird play. And obviously it just ended up in a Bills guy's hand. But he was the better quarterback in this game. I could say that for sure. That was probably the most surprising thing is how much Josh Allen in this passing game struggled.
Yeah, maybe he's. I like. Someone says Buffalo would be better off with a dome. I actually agree. That's my hot take. Because I think the Bills should build a dome.
Yeah, they didn't think to have this generational quarterback with their weather situation. How dare they?
That was an oversight. Maybe they should trade him for a running back.
Yeah, maybe they should get Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think that would be a good 1-for-1 trade. That would be smart.
Maybe they could throw Kyle Pitts in there to make it better.
Yes, I think so. I think that would help. Does any of that change MVP talk? I mean,
yes.
What should happen is that we look at this and say, okay, this is an underwhelming performance. Let's adjust it with all the numbers. But again, the way these things work is it's all narrative driven. And I guess the issue is no one really had a great narrative this week. Saquon had great numbers, but then the narrative of that game was how bad they looked once Jalen Hurts went down. Lamar was great, but so was Derrick Henry. And so that even though I think that's tied together, that hurts his narrative. So I don't know if I don't know how much it hurts his MVP chances.
Yeah, so he's currently still minus 600. So he's still a pretty heavy favorite in Lamar Jackson's plus 425. Man, I don't know. I thought Lamar Jackson was the leader before this week, and I would say that strengthens the gap, obviously, but yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens at the end of the season, I guess, because it definitely feels like everybody kind of has their own opinion on it already, and that's kind of nobody's changing at this point.
Yeah, which is why I hate this. Why I hate how this award works. Didn't Dan Orlovsky see he already sent in his MVP vote?
That checks out.
Yeah, what are we doing here? Why does this work? Let's go to another MVP candidate. We won't spend forever on this game, but Joe Burrow. I mostly just want to talk about that one play where he was like falling down. He was on the ground, but he wasn't touched, so that's why he was still able to throw it. He throws it like laying on his stomach basically for a touchdown. It was like a great throw too. Joe Burrow was incredible in this game. He should get MVP consideration. And Kyle, I felt pretty good about locking up against Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, that was not too much of a shock.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're doing at that. Like, that was a waste of time. I hope nobody paid to go to that game. That feels that's pretty demeaning. But yeah, that was a bad performance for the Browns. That was a solid performance for the Bengals. The defense looked better, which they're not playing an NFL quarterback, which that helps. But yeah, I thought the Bengals, the offense hasn't really looked quite the same, but it's been good enough. Yeah, they still have a mathematical shot, as we talked about, but they got to win a couple big games.
Yeah, I mean that game on Saturday, that'll be fun. I mean, like again,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we forget that sports are entertainment. Like that's gonna be a great game. Bengals trying to keep their season alive. Broncos trying to clinch the playoffs. That's just fun.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Jamar Chase now over 1,500 yards for the season. Awesome season for him too, and he's gonna get no credit because those two running backs obviously are difference makers, but yeah, he's been absolutely electric.
Yeah, it's crazy how he's having this season. Like no one's even talking about him for like offensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's gonna finish like a distant third. And honestly,
Right.
like I still think people might vote Justin Jefferson over him, which is fine. Like,
Yeah,
he was great today too.
yeah, no, unbelievable. I mean, yeah, those guys are great. Again, we don't spend forever on this game. Let's move on. Let's go to Titans Colts. The Colts stay alive as well with their victory. It looked like it was going to be a blowout. Mason Rudolph. I mean, are we sure Will Levis wasn't there? Did they just change the jersey numbers, perhaps, Kyle?
It definitely looked a lot similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some big plays there, some not so big plays, and I guess my question is, like, obviously the defense did not play very well at the end of this game where the Titans, I mean, it was garbage time, whatever. Jonathan Taylor has the huge day. Why didn't they play like this all year? Like they had so many games it felt like this year where they're dropping back to throw the ball 30 times.
Uh-huh.
And like this is a team that's as built with these two players, with Richardson and Taylor, that should be running the ball 50 times to 11 passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and obviously there was more dropbacks because there were scrambles, there was a sack, but like this should be the kind of team that runs this style of offense. Now, is it sustainable? I don't know. But at the same time, you have this insane athletic duo back there. Like, I would be trying to take advantage of that as much as I can.
Yeah. And to be clear, Kyle said 50 rushes to 11 dropbacks or 11 passes. That was not an exaggeration. That is the exact number that was this game. Jonathan Taylor, did you notice how he kept putting two hands on the ball when he went to the goal across the goal line in this game?
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know why. That was insane.
Although the second time he still kind of dropped like not too far after. I'm like, if I do that, like I'm never dropping it. I'm like you said, I'm giving it to the ref every time.
Yeah, just go hand it to them. Yeah, that's my solution. Just hand the ball to the referee.
Good if they idea. Don't take it, you're not past the goal line yet. That's your tell.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, it was a good game for the Colts. Taylor was amazing in this game, obviously. He had 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, but like just overall, like I thought the offense was really ridiculous. Like the yards per play in this game are kind of insane for them.
Yeah, no. This is good. I mean, and again, it's like I don't know how funny would it be if the Colts make the playoffs and then played like the Bills, and how weird of a game. What if they play the Bills and now all of a sudden it's like a snowstorm, and then because they don't have a dome, Colts win and Colts move on.
Hey, this team's built to run the ball. Like I said, get them in some bad weather games. They're all for it.
I mean, like again, it's not that crazy. I mean, they would need some help. They would, but like they play the Giants and the Jaguars the next 2 games. Like they'll probably end up like I think if one of the Chargers or Broncos were to lose out, I'd probably put my money on the Colts being the team that gets in.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the Dolphins also play the Jets or the Browns and the Jets. So like that's the tough thing with Cincinnati is they have the hardest 2 games left of any of those 7 and 8 teams, and they have the lowest tiebreaker of all of the 7 and 8 teams. Because it's conference wins, and I don't think they can make up ground in that, if I'm not mistaken, because the Colts end the season. What was it again?
Are you asking what their conference wins is?
No, what their games left. So they play the Giants. So they can get one more conference win. So that puts them at 7. And then Miami can get to 5 or 7 as well. So that probably makes it interesting because I don't know what the next tiebreaker is after that. Is it strength of
I think
victory or whatever?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. All I know is that if I've ran it, and if all those teams were tied with 9, it would be the Colts first and then the Dolphins second. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how if that could flip, but I'm assuming that's not the case.
Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, I mean that's the toughest thing for Cincinnati in that scenario. But yeah, the Colts are actually in the driver's seat for that. So Broncos have 2 tough games. It's not guaranteed. That still is open.
Yeah. In fact, I think if the Broncos folded the franchise, I think I still wouldn't be expecting the Bengals to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer.
Yeah. Well, let's move on now. Again, some interesting games. We can go to let's go to the Saturday games. They were interesting. Let's go Texans-Chiefs. Kyle, I'm all of a sudden becoming like a Chiefs like fan or something. I don't know what's happening, but I feel like people are losing their minds about the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs at one point in this game have a play where the Texans have to hold one of their players, and then they throw a touchdown on just what should have been an offensive pass interference. Somehow, neither of that gets called. And later on, Patrick Mahomes gets hit in the face mask, gets hit in the head, which is like, we've seen that get called a penalty all the time. And everyone's freaking out like the Chiefs always get the calls. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. It's, it's not fun to listen to. That's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Mahomes does do the thing I don't like where he instantly complains to the ref anytime someone comes near him. Like,
Sure.
I think quarterbacks just have like you should be shamed by your entire NFL team if you're complaining for penalties as a quarterback.
That should be just automatic flag if you complain about like I got hit as a quarterback. I think I agree with that.
Yeah. If you get hit in a contact sport, like there's every rule in the book to protect you. The referees are looking to actively protect you. Don't complain for the flag. I don't want to hear it. That's my solution. But anyway, that is the annoying thing he does do. But at the same time, they're flags, whatever. I'm just not listening to it. This team is really good. And, I think after this week, I was impressed with this win. Like, I think the offense looked really good. I think we had talked about a lot, the offense performing better this season than like the numbers would suggest, or the scoring numbers would suggest at least. And this is a better offense, I think, than last season. And, adding Hollywood Brown to the mix, and, he kind of hit the ground running, and him and Hopkins came up with the big catch late. And I kind of like this offense now. I think they have a lot of pieces here, especially with Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. There's all of a sudden a lot of playmakers in Kansas City.
Yeah, right. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, and you think about these other AFC contenders of the, you have the Ravens and you have the Bills, I think are kind of the big two right now. Those two defenses, you don't trust at all. This Chiefs defense, you do trust. Now, and we've seen before when like the Bills play the Chiefs, sometimes it just comes down to which offense is better. But like, I mean, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes, who I think, again, the thing is he'll miss like 2 or 3 throws a game. And I think there's something to like, because he's Mahomes, like we always notice when he looks human. Like, every single time he misses a throw, it's like, whoa, he missed a throw. But yeah, most quarterbacks miss throws in games. Like, and he'll make some of these unbelievable plays. I know the numbers aren't crazy. I know that the point totals aren't crazy, but like I'm not betting against the back-to-back defending champs who are about to get the 1 seed. I'm not betting against that team.
Yeah. No, it's definitely hard to look at it right now. I think that this receiving core is coming into its own, and I mean they could have. I think he even had a few throws that could have been completed. That if his his a couple drops, couple out of bounds plays, stuff like that. So, like, yeah, I mean I think he's had a good year. Like, he hasn't performed like the best quarterbacks in the league, but I still think he's been a very, very good quarterback and someone I'm betting on in the biggest moments. So I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's still elite. He's still the guy, and it's just going to come down to, can he do it again in the playoffs? Because, the secondary has played better the last couple weeks. I still think it's a different ball game if they play a team like Buffalo, and that's something they're going to have to navigate. But it'll be very fascinating to see how that plays out for them.
Yeah. For the Texans, I mean, the Tank Dell injury sucks. Like, no getting around that. That just sucks because they're essentially locked into the playoffs. This felt more of like a let's just see what we have against one of the best teams. I mean, they are locked into the playoffs. They're essentially locked into the 4 seed. I thought Stroud, again, he made a couple mistakes. I thought he played mostly well other than the mistakes. Had a couple really nice plays as well, including the play I talked about, which should have been a penalty, but it was still a great play by him. But, and I think the Texans defense played all right. I don't think the Texans played that bad in this game. I think they were up against a better team.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I thought they did fine. Like, I thought the defense actually played pretty well, even though I just raved about the Chiefs offense in this game. Like Stroud, like you said, he played pretty well, but it just feels like something's missing for me in these last few weeks. And I think there's been a couple too many mistakes, and they got another big test in this next week against Baltimore, but it just feels like this is a team that's kind of beating up on bad teams. Like they won that Bills game. That Bills team was kind of reeling at that point. And then outside of that, do they have a win against a playoff team besides that Bills game? I don't think so. Not at this moment, unless the
Would have beaten the Colts twice. Yeah.
Yeah, if the Colts make it, then yeah, that would change it. But yeah, it's just like I still feel like this team's a year away, but they get big tests here to see if they can try and build towards something. But I still think they need a little bit more. And like you said, I just think the injuries at receiver have been a little too much.
Yeah. In fairness, they have had a couple of near wins. They lost to the Packers by 2 points. They lost to the Lions in that crazy game.
It feels like they're in every game though. That's the thing. It feels like they have a chance to win all of these games, and they're just not. I don't know if that's just one score bad luck, or if it's just like, are they not executing at the end of these games? I don't know.
I had a take about C.J. Stroud I thought of, which is his first year, he had that streak to start his career without throwing an interception. And it was like this crazy long, I can't remember if it broke the record or came close to breaking the record for like most throws to start a career without throwing an interception. And then us nerds were like, well, actually, he's put the ball in harm's way a decent amount. Like, he hasn't been like great at protecting the football. He's kind of been lucky here. Are we kind of just seeing like, I think part of it is, did he maybe not learn the lessons early on in his career that he could have? Because he does kind of, he's a risk taker in a way that maybe isn't. Again, I think he's really good, but that's kind of the one thing he maybe still has to be better at.
I think so. Yeah, you're probably. If you look at it too, so it's kind of interesting. So he played 15 games last year because he missed a couple games, and he's played 15 games this year. Last season, he had 499 pass attempts. And 319 completions. This season, he's had 495 pass attempts and 313 completions. Last season was a 63.9 completion percentage, 63.2. He did have more yards per attempt last year. It was 8.2 to 7.1. And it was 23 touchdowns to 19 touchdowns this year. 5 interceptions last year to 11 this year. Like, I think that's kind of the issue, is like, he kind of just feels like the same guy that is throwing more interceptions. Like, that's probably the issue that we're having right now, right? It's the same guy as he was last year. There's not really a development.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Which, hey, maybe the good news is now that he's making those mistakes, it's room to grow for year 3.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how eerily similar those numbers are through 15 games. Like, it's almost the exact same.
Yeah,
outside of interceptions.
That's bizarre. And it also sucks that they've had their wide receiver injuries as well, which, it's part of the game, but they've been more unlucky than most. Let's go to the other Saturday game, Steelers-Ravens. And we saw, I think, the return of the legit threat Baltimore Ravens here.
Yeah. No, they looked really good. It's still hard to evaluate this Pittsburgh offense without Pickens because he's such a big part of it. Like, that's still a thing I have to look at when I'm looking at this team as a playoff team. But yeah, I think the offense from Baltimore definitely needed this game against Pittsburgh. That was the big factor in this one. They needed to get going in this one, and it was the big three for this Ravens offense. It was Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers. I thought those guys kind of set the tone for this game. Had some big plays with Zay Flowers. Derrick Henry wore the team down, and Lamar Jackson obviously is Lamar Jackson, having a superstar season. Yeah. So I thought the offense needed this, and they needed an ass-kicking game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's it's so hard to stop. I mean, like, this is the Ravens rushing attack that we expected, right? Which is like and Lamar, who only ran, I mean, actually ran 9 times in this game. I think a handful of those were kneel downs, but he had it was interesting where just the threat of the run of Lamar Jackson to then hand it off, it takes away a defender every play. So now you have Derrick Henry rushing through lighter boxes than he's used to, and then I think he had like 10 rushes of 10 or more yards in this game. Like, it was just crazy how consistently they were just getting first downs with the ground. Lamar was great. The one blemish was the interception, which was a miscommunication. I'm still not sure who that was on, but that was a tough break because that could have iced it. And then Russell Wilson said, "Don't worry, buddy. I got you guys."
Yeah, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
He also had a fumble in this game that they recovered, but my guy has to stop putting the football on the ground. I know it's kind of his thing, but like he fumbles a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just fascinating because he is running less than he has basically his entire career. At this point, he's 15 games, 126 rushing attempts, 765 yards. He had 2 seasons less, but he only played 12 games in those 2 seasons. So, yeah, I mean, he's running less than he has in his entire career. And I mean, it's the best football he's ever played. I know people will point to his first MVP season in 2019. I think he's been much, much better. He's throwing the ball downfield more. He's much more aggressive with it. He's got 37 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. And like you said, like, he still has some of those crazy plays that you wish you would take out of his passing game sometimes, like that late interception. But I mean, this is the best. This is the guy who's going to win his 3rd MVP, or I think should win his 3rd MVP. Playing the best football of his career. Like, I think that's what you're talking yourself into if you're picking the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, which I still maintain on days like this Saturday, on days like that, I would put the Ravens against anybody in the NFL. But we just need to see it consistently.
Yeah. Where are we at with the Steelers team? Are we, because like, I think we keep saying this Steelers team, I've been higher on them than you, but we're both on the same page of like, this is still the Steelers, but there's just a little bit more this year. Like, the things they do well for the past decade, they still do well, but you have this Russell Wilson downfield passing, which makes this team different. I think the question is that different enough? And this is exactly what concerns you if you're a Steelers fan, is like, have we done all this to just be in a situation where we're, still going to end up 10-7 and losing the Bills in round 1 again?
Yeah. I think there's a chance of it, obviously. I mean, I think the big thing is you had the Wilson downfield passing thing, like you said, and you also have a now superstar skill player, which is something, or not, I don't know about superstar, but star skill player at least. George Pickens has turned into that level of player. And those were kind of the 2 things that, like, it felt like Pittsburgh was just missing all this time. Like, they didn't really have like a super, super dynamic skill player, and they didn't have a quarterback that could throw the ball downfield. And this year they have it. Obviously, Pickens missing a couple weeks hasn't made it easier for them. But, like, I don't know if it's enough. I still feel like they may need another piece and maybe another guy at quarterback. But, like, Wilson, I think he's done a good job this season when he's come back from his injury. I just don't know if it's enough. I don't. And especially with how competitive, I mean, it's hard to, like, look, when you're in a conference that has, Mahomes, Burrow's not making the playoffs this year, obviously, as we talked about probably, but when it has Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Herbert, Drake May, like, when you're playing in a conference like that, like, it's, you're facing an uphill battle every season at that point, unless you have one of those guys. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough sledding no matter who they get, no matter what the solution is, if it's not Russell Wilson next season. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward. But I think that's the question you kind of have to solve.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Obviously, they'll have time to, they got bigger things to worry about right now, but it is interesting to see, at the end of the year, what happens. Let's move on. We can, let's see. So not a ton of, well, let's go to Niners Dolphins, because this game was, someone brought it up earlier, it was a game with playoff implications, as the Niners got eliminated today. The Dolphins stayed alive with their victory. I don't know, Kyle, what were your thoughts on this one?
So if Tua only plays good against bad teams, does that mean the 49ers are a bad team? Although Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
don't think he was amazing in this game, but like he
Mhm.
was fine. This was the Devin Achane show.
Yeah.
That's honestly what it was. I mean,
He's another guy who has like one or two like games where he just like is the best player in football and then like goes away for another like 2 months.
yeah. I mean, he's had a good year for the most part, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think the problem is I watched this team and just was like, I watched parts of this game and was just like uninspired. Like, this is just these are two teams that like we had high expectations for this season. 49ers obviously coming off a Super Bowl appearance, and Miami as a team we kind of waiting to take that next step. And like, you know, I think if we made a preseason podcast of like going through each week of like games we're looking forward to, this probably would have been near the top of the list for this week, right? If not the top game. And I think that was my biggest issue is I watched it and was not very excited by what I was watching.
Yeah. I also think there's just something too. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like it seeing I think it was seeing a game in Florida at the 4 o'clock window. I don't think it works.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, isn't it?
You need either prime time or 1 o'clock. It feels like it just feels wet.
Yeah. And this was like the West Coast game too. Like they didn't even have it on in the East Coast because I think the Bills Patriots was the primary East Coast game on CBS. So it was a weird situation all around. But yeah, it was just it was not a awesome game to watch for two teams that we expected to be a little bit more awesome. I did think Brock Purdy played pretty well today. But they couldn't really put together drives or sustain drives, and yeah, I just came away from this game looking like these two teams are uninteresting, which is something I was surprised to think about.
Yeah. Hey, Dolphins staying alive though. At least as a Dolphins fan, you get a reason to tune in next week.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a chance, and like you
Mhm.
said, there is a there is a case that they can make a run this season. You know, all three of those teams still have a chance.
Yeah. Let's move on. 4 games left to talk about. Let's go Giants Falcons just because again another game with playoff implications. This is a huge week for the Falcons. I mean they're pumped up because mostly from the Sunday night game, the Buccaneers losing. Michael Penix comes in and looks. We didn't get to see a ton of him, to be honest. This game got out of hand pretty quickly. He did have an interception, but that was like it was a throw to Kyle Pitts, who just like threw it, just chucked it in the air to a Giants defender. That was funny. As a whole, it was a fine day by Michael Penix, which is kind of the storyline. But just Drew Lock was so bad in this game. Kyle, I'm rooting for the Giants here. It just and like they kept it competitive early on. You're wondering, can this happen? Not with Drew Lock. The Falcons had multiple defensive touchdowns in this game. So you see 34 and think, oh wow, did Penix light it up? They didn't really have to do a lot in this one.
No. Yeah, that was the thing. Like Michael Penix, I don't think he played bad, but he just had to play better than Drew Lock, and that didn't seem to be very hard today. The second pick six that was deflected to Matthew Judon was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. We'll evaluate Michael Penix when he plays a real NFL team. I mean, this is not a real NFL team right now. I mean, this team is actively trying to lose and throw the ball to Malik Neighbors, and so they did that today. Good job, Giants. You checked your boxes, and Atlanta kind of needed a game where they coasted. I think this team needed a convincing win in their own right.
And can you explain to me why Tyrone Tracy gets 7 rushes in this game and Drew Lock throws 39 times? I don't care what the score is. Put the ball in Tyrone Tracy's hands. He's good.
Yeah. This was coached by this game looked like it was coached by someone who knows he's getting fired. Drew Lock, you want to throw the ball? Yeah, go for it, man.
Brandon, it's so funny because so he does some things that are actually smart, but the Giants are just so bad, it's not what you should do. So like there's a point when they have the ball, the Falcons have the ball towards the end zone, and they're trying to score, and so Brian Dable's using his timeouts there to keep time on the clock, which not every team does. It's smart by Brian Dable to do that, so he does that, and then. But then the issue is Drew Lock immediately turns the football over, and now the Falcons have the ball with a little time left in this end of the half. It's you can't do that. You have to understand you're the Giants. Less time on the board is good. I don't care what the situation is.
Yeah. He's definitely just coaching for offensive coordinator jobs next year. That's his goal. Maybe
Does
he'll
Buffalo just
coach.
bring him back?
Maybe. Joe Brady's done good there, though.
Well, I guess if Brady gets hired somewhere as a head coach, then they probably bring him back.
Yeah, that's probably the scenario. Maybe he ends up at North Carolina.
Because maybe so. Kyle, any other thoughts on this game?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, Bijan was good. Let's move on. 3 games left. We can go to Rams-Jets. Again, another game with playoff implications is kind of the main thing. Early on, it felt like this, are the Jets going to pull off this upset? Also, it was like I feel like other games had like 10 minutes left in the third quarter when this game was entering the fourth quarter. Like it flew by. The Rams trailed in the fourth quarter in this game, but ended up outscoring the Jets 13-0 in that quarter to ultimately win, 19-9. Bizarre game here, as this was again, just a really weird game.
Yeah, I meant to say, it was a breeze. It just flew by. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's one of those things where it's like I don't think Aaron Rodgers has actually played as bad as people say this year. But like, I also watch this offense every week just kind of like suck outside of the second half of who did they play last week that they just went ballistic on?
Was that the Jaguars?
Yeah, they went crazy on the Jaguars last week in the second half. Like outside of the second half of the Jaguars game, this offense has just not been very good. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Could you throw the ball downfield one time? Could we just get one downfield pass? And I just feel like I keep watching this team like, can we get anything over the top of the defense? Like, he has always been a risk-averse quarterback. And, he's had a lot of success doing that. So who am I to tell him how to play quarterback? But, like you have to take some chances, right? Especially when you're not very good. Like, you just have to throw the ball downfield. You have to be able to stretch defenses. Like, this team is basically just trying to play every game like it's a 12-play drive. Every drive like it's a 12 to 15-play drive. They just can't. They don't have the talent to do it.
Right. It's like that's why like Jameis Winston's the ideal quarterback for a bad team because like he'll at least like win you some games and then he'll lose you some other ones. Like, yeah, you're correct. I mean, it's an issue. I also just think that like I don't think Aaron Rodgers has been as bad as people make him out to be. I still think he hasn't been a top 10 quarterback in the league this year, and like that's what they need him to be. And when you have all the other baggage that comes with it, like again, not to do the Aaron Rodgers thing every week, but like it's not worth it to have him.
I mean, unfortunately, it's the story. Like, we don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers every week, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's what the heck is going on in the chat, man?
Yeah, interesting. Chat, I'm definitely not going to read out loud. I'll say that. Oh, did we lose Kyle here? Looks like Kyle is frozen. Either it's Kyle or me. Let me know in the chat. It's just because
I see you now.
Okay. I heard Kyle for a second, and now I've lost him again. I'm assuming this is okay. I can hear. I heard you then. Oh, what's going on here with Kyle? Got Kyle frozen here. Okay. I can. Okay, Kyle, can you hear me? Oh, still not hearing you. Yeah. Well, while Kyle gets that fixed, we can. I think I'm not trying to think if we have any other Rams stuff I want to talk about. I don't know. I think we've got the Rams pretty covered. I think we can move on to another game here while Kyle is frozen. Let's go to Lions Bears. If anyone in the chat has some Lions or Bears related questions, we can discuss those. I'm gonna take Kyle off the screen until he gets that fixed. But let's go Lions Bears. Who I mean, obviously the headline of this one was the fake stumble play, the Ben Johnson, which is fun. Actually, I saw what happened on that play was, if you missed it, Jared Goff and the running back kind of pretended as though they were stumbling, and that was their play action, and it worked out really well. Sam Laporta got open. Apparently, Jordan Love unintentionally they unintentionally did that in the game last year. That's what they were playing off of. Kyle, are you back?
I think so. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you. You're good.
It was weird because my internet never actually dropped, and then I could see you and hear you the entire time, but for some
Huh.
reason it just wasn't broadcasting. That was weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, because usually the whole thing crashes if my internet crashes.
Right.
Weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
what were we
I was
talking about?
discussing the fake stumble play.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. What I
That's
was
something
saying,
else.
apparently that was like they saw the Packers last year like actually stumbled, but then like recovered and like threw a touchdown, and then the Lions were like, oh, that's smart. Let's do that against the Bears this year.
Yeah. Ben Johnson, man, he's going to be a head coach soon. I mean, everybody is on the bandwagon for that. He's going to be a great head coach, I think. Or he's going to be a fun hire at least. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, like some of those Jared Goff throws in this game, man. That throw to
Mhm.
Jameson Williams, like that was a dart. That's obviously he's another guy similar to Darnold that like he was drafted for arm talent for a reason.
Mhm.
He was drafted number 1 overall for a reason. And that was just an insane toss. And it's just like one of those things where it's like I understand the concerns with the Lions. Like I don't even think the defense played particularly great in this game. As like I think Caleb, it was a slow start obviously for Chicago, and a lot of this was garbage time, but like the offense did do pretty well for Chicago at times in this game. But like it's hard to bet against this offense right now. Like who is stopping this team consistently enough? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that we've seen with their 2 loss again. Tampa Bay weirdly has been the one team that's like been able to slow them down, slow down the offense, which was still a weird game. I mean, I agree. I guess the one thing is no one has any criticisms of can the Lions beat bad football teams, and we just discussed that the 49ers are bad, so that means that they're going to win. Lions are going to win next week as well on Monday Night Football. The concern you have to have is this a team that can they, with all their defensive injuries, can they withstand one of these top teams in the league? Again, we're talking about the Lions as Super Bowl contenders. We're not talking about them as like a playoff team. So like, will that come back to bite them if they have to win 3 or even 4 playoff games?
Yeah, but there's only been one offense this entire season that's been able to score with Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Buffalo. And they're not seeing an offense like Buffalo until potentially the Super Bowl if Buffalo makes it there with them. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just
Although
think that
I would say like Green Bay kind of did. They lost the game, but they were able to keep up.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, they were in the conversation for sure. So, I mean, it's just like I think this team continues to pass the tests. I still have concerns about it, but I think overall, I'm just looking at this team like they keep rolling and doing what they need to do to win these games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not counting out. I'm not counting out Detroit. I do think they're human. I do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're still my favorite, but at the same time, like I get it.
Yeah. One game left. Jaguars-Raiders, which had huge draft pick implications, as not only do the Raiders get the win, but now they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Jaguars. So the Raiders, according to Tankathon, which was wrong earlier today, so I'm a little confused, but according to Tankathon, the Raiders are now would now be picking 6th. They would have been picking 2nd had everything else held. The Giants would have are currently in line for the 1st overall pick. The Patriots in line for the 2nd overall pick, and the Jaguars with pick number 3. I mean, this was a hilarious game where both teams, it felt like they were trying to tank, but they weren't. They're not that good. That was fun. Brock Bowers had another amazing game, and
Oh my
the
gosh, he
Raiders,
was so good.
yeah, and the Raiders pull out a victory here, Kyle.
They pull out a victory from the jaws of defeat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this was a weird game. This was the local broadcast for us, which was annoying. So that definitely
Do
was
you
not
not have
something
a
I
Sunday
wanted to.
ticket?
No, I've Stream East.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, I just it was funny because there was the Brian Thomas Jr. dropped like what could have been a very long touchdown pass late in I think it was the 3rd quarter still at that point. And then the Raiders just decided, let's just leave him more open the next possession. And then he caught a long touchdown pass, 62-yarder. He had a great game too. But Brock Bowers, I thought was, I mean, just incredible. Like anytime they needed to move the ball, they went to him. Aiden O'Connell needs to get him a Christmas gift because he just like saved every drive in this game, it felt like. But yeah, I mean the draft pick implications, like you said, dropping so far as they did. I mean, that's huge. That's just absolutely massive. And now, like, they're behind 2 teams that are theoretically going to take quarterbacks, maybe 3 teams that take quarterbacks, and they got to climb up the draft rankings that way. And I think the biggest loser of this game is Tom Brady. You know, he had this all cultivated. He has been a mentor and coach for Shedeur Sanders for all of these years. You know, he bought a stake in the Raiders. Immediately as he buys a stake in the Raiders, they're rumored to be in on Shedeur Sanders as their quarterback of the future. And then all of a sudden they win this game. Really tough break. He did all this to cultivate getting Shedeur Sanders on his team. And now it's not going to happen.
Yeah, we need a lot of help. A lot of bad teams have to win the final couple of games, or maybe he falls in the draft. I don't know. Could he? We got the Patriots pick number 2. Maybe you can get a trade there.
Yeah, I that's probably the likely scenario because I would imagine. I mean, well, we got plenty of time to talk draft, but it seems like it's a 2 quarterback draft. So I would imagine them, Tennessee, and the Browns, and maybe the Jets are looking to trade up.
Yeah. So good job by those 2 teams. Good job by us, Kyle, getting through another 16 games here. We talked on it, touched on it, but we never came to a decision. Do we know what we want to do for the Pick'em show this week? Because I don't know if we have time to do because I'm not going to do it on Christmas, and I can't really do it Christmas Eve either. So are we gonna skip the show, or what do you want to do?
I guess we're gonna have to skip it because I can't do Christmas Eve or Christmas. So do we want to? I mean, I guess the only thing is like we could either just take the week off, or we could send each other picks and then go from there. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. I think let's. Why don't we just we can just. I mean, I'm leading in the picks right now. So if cutting a week off for you could be a disadvantage. So should we try and do the picks somehow?
Yeah, I mean, we can. That's for sure. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I guess we could just text them to each other and then post them. So it's a I don't know. Is that what you want to do, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what the best way to do it is. I don't know, but let's just for now we'll touch on it. I think for now we'll just say someone saying why not just preview it next week. Now, well, it's 1:30.
1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's why we're not going to do it now. But again, we'll just say there's no show this upcoming next week. We will be back a week from today to do the recap show, and I'll be making videos throughout this week. And then Kyle, we'll figure out how we'll do the picks.
Yeah, we will figure it out. But yeah, stay tuned for that, I guess. And then we'll be back Sunday.
How about this? What if we did like we each get 4 games and we treat them like locks, where you have to do that, and we'll just tweet out our 4 picks.
That's fine with me. Yeah, we can do that. Or do we have to cover the spread or just those 4 picks?
Yeah, they work like locks. So
okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. Well, again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate you staying with us. We'll be back next week. And until then, have a good one.
Peace.